Mitchell Robinson is not cleared to play. So let's talk about that, ladies and gentlemen. I got Andy. I got Josh. We're going to go ahead and get busy. Talk about Mitchell Robinson, amongst other news. So here you go from Ian Begley. Mitchell Robinson hasn't been cleared to play yet. New York Knicks' Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau both said they were very encouraged by Robinson's play prior to his injury. When asked about Robinson's contract, Rose said, "We love Mitchell Robinson. We look forward to seeing him play." That's it. That's all we got about Mitchell Robinson. But we do know he's not cleared to play. Training camp begins Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever, next week. Josh, your thoughts?
Wow. So, first of all, salute to the chat, salute to MBK family out there, and salute to you guys. I'm not surprised about it. I kind of already figured the Knicks were going to bring him along kind of slow. But I got to tell you, I know, you did a little podcast before about Mitchell Robinson, him gaining the weight and everything like that. When I first heard about Mitchell Robinson being 80 pounds, that was a red flag for me. A real big red flag because, I did want Mitchell Robinson to gain some weight. I wanted him to get a little bit girthier, but to me, 280 pounds is a lot of weight for a guy who is naturally skinny, ectomorphic, if you will. So I think that it is a red flag considering the fact he's coming off injuries, and now the Knicks are bringing him along slowly. And we just gotta wait and see. But hopefully it's not a big thing. Hopefully, he's able to get back healthy. But I am thinking about a lot of red flags right now.
How much did he weigh before he gained? I don't want to say gained the weight, but gained muscle, put on extra pounds. How much did he weigh before then?
He said he gained 60 pounds in over 2 years, in over 2 seasons. He weighed, I think it was 260 last season, and the year before that, he was like around 250 or something like that, or 230 or something like that.
Okay.
So he said he gained 60 pounds in 2 years, which is, again, 60 pounds of muscle. But again, for a guy that lanky, it does concern me. With his injury history like that, that's a lot of weight to be carrying around. I mean, I'm sorry. I just, that was my first thought when I first heard about it. So today's news really doesn't surprise me. I think the Knicks are going to bring him along slowly, just naturally. But it is something that we need to look out for moving forward.
I mean, if he was 260 last year, and I thought he said he was about 275. If he's 275 this season, that's 15 pounds of hopefully muscle. I think he did say there was a little bit of fat there. I guess it's not too bad. And a lot is going to depend on how much he's been able to work so that he can get used to playing at that weight. And there's a question there because he suffered a foot injury. Andy, what's popping with you, man, and what do you think about it?
What up, Sim? What up, Josh? What up to the chat? Listen, gaining weight is nothing new in the NBA as far as through a certain schedule that the team medical staff puts you through, right?
Right.
When he came to the Knicks, I think he was around 220. Where if he's now like Josh said, 60 pounds, with gain weight, not only muscle but weight. Listen, if the doc said that he's going to be good with that weight, I understand that it's good for him, but it might have been a little bit too fast. I understand, that he can gain those 60 pounds, but through like 4, maybe 5 years. So, his body can adapt to that a little bit more weight. But 60 pounds through 2 seasons, that's a lot of pounds, like Josh said, to be carried around. And looking
in a short amount of time as well.
Yeah, in a short amount of time. So that growth was drastic. And like Josh said, he has a skinny build, right? He has broad shoulders that he can fill out. But it's better to fill out a little bit more steady growth. And and basically we saw him gaining weight in the off seasons. We didn't see him transform his body from day one, from game 1 to game 82, right?
Right.
last season. So it was mostly during the off season. So I'm a little bit worried about that. Not to mention his career and him missing the games. That added weight might not be the best thing for Mitch Robinson at least at this point of his career.
Yeah, something that really concerns me about the weight gain or the added pounds, I'll say that, is his foot. I know, it's a broken foot. We don't know if it was a clean break or, whatever it was or however it was. But can his foot handle the weight, not just walking around, but actually putting pressure on the foot by playing basketball, right? Playing aggressive basketball. Can his foot handle that pressure? I think that's a question. And maybe one of the reasons why they're just saying, hey, you're not cleared to play yet. And, as far as we're looking at it as fans, it's like, oh my gosh, he's still in the boot. He's still this, that, and the third. Where in reality, he may actually be working and running and playing, and they want to monitor him to make sure that the foot is able to hold up under that kind of pressure. But do you have concerns about his foot, Josh, holding up under the new weight with the way that he plays? Or do you think he maybe limits some of the things that he does in the way that he plays as far as, jumping as high or anything like that? Always people are going to be a little bit afraid when they come off an injury anyway. What do you think?
Well, I mean, listen, we got to see. We got to, watch how he performs on the floor and probably any practice clips that we get a chance to watch. But yes, it is definitely alarming. You're coming off an injury. You gained, some weight on your naturally lanky, kind of skinny kind of body, high metabolism. So it is a concern. And I am concerned about if he is able to play, is he still going to be able to do some of the things that we're used to seeing him doing, getting above the rim, being able to chase down and block shots. So it is a concern. And if he is able to do that stuff, does that increase his chance of injury because of the extra pounds? So these are all questions that we're going to have coming into the season. I just want to see the guy play and get him on the floor, and then we can basically assess it for right now. But those questions are valid for anyone who has those questions. Yeah. People that are writing them off, saying that it's over, I think that's way too premature and irresponsible. But to have those questions, I think that it is important to have those questions.
Yeah, and do you think, Andy, we haven't heard much about his extension and whether or not the Knicks are going to extend him or any kind of negotiations. Do you think this is part of the reason why both parties want to wait until his foot is healed and they can see him on the floor, at least in preseason?
Yes, and just to answer the question that Josh had, listen, gaining weight and any kind of lower body injuries, it could be an Achilles, a quad, whatever, right? And the back are bad combinations, right? Because if you have a bruised wrist and you gain weight, nobody's going to be bothered by that. But if your legs and lower body is going to carry more pounds around, that's always a bad combination. But just to answer the question you asked, listen, it's definitely, the ball definitely is in the management side as far as I see it. I think that Mitch would love to have an extension on his terms, which would be like around 15 million a year. I think the management is like, listen, we still didn't clear you. You got to first play a couple of games. We're going to see how it goes, and then we can talk about an extension. They're not those kind of guys that just go out and throw money at any kind of players, even players that they know, right? So they're going to play it safe. And I think we're going to see an extension after the season. And as far as I see it, I think for the management, it's a way better decision to have, because even if they think that, listen, maybe someone is interested in, they might pull off a sign and trade. So they're going to be in a win-win position. And, that's only bad news for Mitch. But if he stays healthy, and that's the major thing for him, he's also gonna get paid. So I'll feel safe for him if he's healthy.
Okay. All right. Steph, what do you take from the comments? And of course, you can go back and comment on your thoughts on Mitchell Robinson not being cleared. But what do you take from the comments where Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau both said, and this is according to Ian Begley, were very encouraged by Robinson's play prior to his injury. When asked about Robinson's contract, Rose said, "We love Mitchell Robinson. We look forward to seeing him play." So basically he said, "I'm not saying anything about his contract. I'm not talking about that." That's basically what he said. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, shout out Sam, Andy, Josh. You know what? I take a little bit more from that. When they said they want to see how he plays, what I'm taking from that is we're not signing him until we see how he plays. And now, obviously, I think if he were to accept a really inexpensive, team-friendly deal, I think that they would do that without seeing how he plays. But it could be that maybe him and his camp is asking for a lot of money, more than the Knicks are willing to give up. Obviously, I'm reading into this, and that they're not willing to do that until they see how he plays. And it sounds like they're willing to take the chance that they may have to compete with other teams in the offseason, because it's correct, right? If they don't sign him before the season, they can't sign him during the season. If that's correct, they're taking their chances in the offseason and may very well wind up paying more or losing him.
Right. I think it's they have until sometime in mid-October to offer an extension, I think.
Okay.
And if they don't offer an extension, then he'll go to free agency. If they do offer an extension and he turns it down, then he'll go to free agency. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but I believe that he'll be a restricted free agent this summer. And then the Knicks can match.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, Sim, we can easily do a sign and trade, with him. So he can pick the team. He can pick basically the terms. We're just going to get something back for him.
Right.
Now, even though we signed him in the second round, he would still be restricted?
I don't think this matters, Steph. It depends on the contract we signed him to, because teams now sign players from non-guaranteed, second round picks to guaranteed contracts, like Detroit did today with Luka Garza. They signed him to a fully guaranteed NBA contract when he was a second round pick.
Yeah.
So once you do that, he becomes restricted. The rules are the same.
No, I think just, it depends on the contract that you sign, because you can sign a second rounder for 4 years, for 2 years. It depends only, what deal you want to sign him to. So,
yeah. We'll see what happens. That's definitely something to watch as we enter training camp, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on with Mitchell Robinson? If he ends up being out longer than we expect, now you got Nerlens Noel as the starter. Do we see Jericho Sims move into that? He's already on a two-way spot. Do you see somebody like Luka Vildoza get waived and Jericho Sims take that spot so that we have a third center on the roster behind Taj Gibson? Assuming behind Taj Gibson.
I think you see a lot of Jericho Sims. I think Jericho Sims gets some time. I think he's going to get that two-way contract, playing in the G League and also playing in the NBA for the big club as well. I think the Knicks are going to use more of their young farm guys in the G League and to fill out this roster. I don't think they're going to make that many moves during the course of the season outside the roster that they currently have. It is a level of concern. I think the Knicks' depth is what allows them to do this and be slow with Mitchell Robinson. So.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm hoping that Mitch is going to be healthy and he's going to be able to play. I don't think if he's not cleared right now, I don't see that he's going to be cleared for preseason if he's not cleared right now. It's hard for me to see him being cleared for preseason, if he's not cleared now. Preseason begins, what is it, October 5th or something like that?
Yeah.
It's maybe the first preseason game? I don't know. I guess we'll see. And if he is cleared, then he's, if he's cleared for contact, and maybe he is cleared for contact in practice, but just not cleared to play in games. Who knows exactly what that means? I guess we'll find out Monday, because I'm sure that question is going to be asked during media day. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Also in the news by Ian Begley, according to Ian Begley, I guess they must have had some kind of a press a phone call or something today. He said New York Knicks GM Scott Perry says all Knicks players are vaccinated. Perry says the organization is proud of how seriously the players approached COVID-19 and credits the team medical staff. Per the New York City mandate, Knicks and Nets need to be vaccinated to play/practice in the city. Josh, I know you were, expressing a little bit earlier that, you felt good that the Knicks players went ahead and, did what they needed to do so that they could, play.
Yes, and I feel even better that the Knicks don't have to go through any type of PR, whatever. You know what I mean? And the media jumps all over this stuff when it comes to the Knicks. We all know that because it is New York. So I'm glad that all the players decided to get vaccinated. It was their choice, and that's what they decided to do, to get vaccinated, to avoid the media storm. But I'm also happy that the Knicks don't have to basically avoid any type of PR controversy, or attempt at a PR controversy with unvaccinated players and stuff like that. So I'm very happy about that. And I just want to say that I hope more players decide to, or the NBA and the world pretty much, is allowed to make their own decision when it comes to this vaccine. I know it's a big political topic, and without getting into all of that, I'm just hopeful that, the NBA allows its own players to make their own choice without threatening their careers. So that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think that people should, have the choice if they want to get vaccinated or not. Businesses, though, have the right to say, I don't want you in my business unless you're vaccinated. Yeah, I don't believe with the mandating, from any government. I think it should be the person's choice on what they put in their body. That being said, businesses do have the right, I believe, to say, you can't enter my building if you're not vaccinated. I am happy that the Knicks players, are going to be able to play. I just hope that, it was all of their decision to make to get vaccinated, and, they're happy with their decision. I'm vaccinated. I made the decision to be vaccinated, and I'm cool with it. I have friends that are not, and they made that decision, and I'm cool with their decision, But the Knicks players are vaccinated. Now, the Nets, on the other hand,
oh boy,
they have some players who are not vaccinated, and Kyrie Irving being one of them, and listen, it's his choice, if he wants to be vaccinated or not. Now, according to the Nets, they believe that, when it comes time for preseason and things, everybody will be vaccinated. I guess we'll see. Steph, any thoughts?
I think the players will have the opportunity to make their own decision. I think the Players Association took care of that. So the NBA can't mandate them to get the vaccine. They changed it? Okay. Well,
in New York City and San Francisco specifically, those things based on the local mandate, you can't play home games if you're a part of any one of those teams, Brooklyn, the Knicks, or the Warriors.
That part I got. But the NBA can't mandate a player to take the vaccine.
That's correct.
The Players Association, they already had that discussion. And listen, I think from a public health perspective, the whoever the officials are in New York State has a right to look out for the entire public and to say this is what they mandate for businesses. Now, an individual can decide that no, I don't want it, and I think they should have that opportunity, like Sim said, to be able to say no, I don't want to take the vaccine. And there's nowhere where people are making people have to take the vaccine. The issue is businesses also have a right to say, you can't come into my business if you're not vaccinated. Right. And so I do get it. There's a lot of pressure if you are not vaccinated. Your life, depending on what state you live in, can be somewhat limited. I'm not sure what the answer to it is, but I think this is the best compromise. You don't have to get it if you don't want. We're not putting you out of the state or anything like that. If you don't want it, don't get it. But the businesses also
Right.
get that choice as well.
Exactly. And that is the compromise, That is the compromise. So we'll see how this impacts the rest of the league. It could have a great impact on the league, and depending on which players, like you look at someone like a Kyrie Irving, if he decides he's a money draw, right? He puts fans in the seats. How that will definitely hurt the Brooklyn Nets, not only in the standings but in the seats as well. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that's something that they're concerned about. So, and it can impact the money overall for the NBA, which eventually impacts your salary cap.
Yeah.
The salary splits between the NBA and the players. Right? So, I mean, it has a major impact, depending on players that may or may not play. So if you get a bunch of stars that aren't playing, it's a big impact to the NBA. But still, still a decision.
Sim, I also want to point out that, there's trade possibilities as well. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing that people aren't talking about. I know, Kyrie Irving, if he decides not to take the vaccine or whatever the case may be, he can't play home games for Brooklyn. So that's 41 games that Brooklyn's not going to have him.
Right.
And there's players who are currently
46, Josh, because he's going to play extra 44.
Against the
It's going to be
Knicks,
extra versus the Knicks, and then one in Golden State. So that's going to be like 45 games that he's going to miss just from the jump.
Right.
If he doesn't get back. So
that's right.
And if you look around the NBA, we talk about these disgruntled players all the time. That might be something that I don't want to throw his name out there, Ben Simmons, but
oh boy,
people
we're not going to bring that conversation up. Go ahead.
No, I'm not. I just want to point out a lot of people were, I guess, upset that Stephen A. Smith kind of brought that up. But to me, I would make big sense or great sense for both teams. You give Brooklyn a wing defender who can defend. They need defense desperately, right? And you don't have to worry about him shooting the basketball. They got two of the greatest scorers in NBA history playing there with shooters. And then you give Philly a point guard who can also score. It's a scoring upgrade over Ben Simmons. That works out for both teams. I don't know why people are so upset about that.
What's the mandates in Pennsylvania as far as
it's not the same as New York City.
Right.
It'll just basically, there'll be visiting players coming to New York so they can play all those games. Or in San Francisco, they can play. Kyrie Irving can play in San Francisco, and I'm assuming that Ben Simmons is vaccinated. So,
now that can work. That can work during the regular season. What happens in the playoffs? What if Philly meets Brooklyn or the Knicks in the playoffs? Let's just say that
visiting players are allowed to not be vaccinated and play.
That's right. You're right. Forgot
Which
about
it doesn't make sense if you're going to mandate the whole thing. Why don't you, if the city's going to mandate it, So again, it's just a lot of shakiness with this whole. I get it, Steph. It's not mandated, but again, you're putting people's livelihoods and their jobs on the line. So it's kind of as close to a mandate as you can get, if you ask me. But again, the rule just doesn't make sense to me, and I think that trade possibility could be something we should look out for.
Huh. You never know. I mean, listen, we've never in our lifetimes been in this situation. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard. When you're talking about what are the right and wrong steps, it's hard to say what the right and wrong steps are because we've never been here. You know what I'm saying? We've never been here before. So how do we know what to do if we've never been here? And when you talk about history, people say, well, they've had this plague and that plague or whatever in history, but they didn't have the same technology we have today. Life is different. It's a tough thing to deal with. The NBA has to deal with, but I'm glad that the Knicks players are going to be able to play. We'll be able to see them 100% fully healthy, hopefully, barring other injuries. But as far as this is concerned, they'll be able to be in the arena playing basketball, and I'm glad for that. And we'll see what happens with Brooklyn. We'll see what happens there. Speaking of Knicks players, we've had some people move on from us this year. And, Frank Ntilikina is one of them. There was a whole show yesterday with Die Hard about Frank Ntilikina, right? Well, I don't know if it was yesterday, maybe it was the day before, whenever it was, about Frank Ntilikina. Now, Dennis Smith Jr., another former New York Knicks guard, he'll be playing for the Portland Trail Blazers. Obviously, it doesn't impact the New York Knicks. I don't know if he's going to be playing for them. He's going to enter camp, I guess, with the Portland Trail Blazers. Steph, you think he makes the squad? I mean, I'm hoping for the best for the kid. I'd like to see him make the squad.
I hope he makes the team too, Sam. Yeah, I hope he makes it. I hope he makes it. I think it's also telling for where Portland is, trying to keep Dame and what they've had to revert to in terms of the people they invited to Summer League, the people they're bringing into camp, right? It gives you some insight into they probably didn't grow that roster the way they wanted to. But it's also another cautionary tale of how you can come into the NBA and do very well the first year or two. And as I've always said, level off. Like there's nothing to say that the trajectory is going to continue. But, I wish him the very best. I think the handwriting was on the wall, Sim, after that first season in Dallas. I think they saw that he wasn't going to be like a point guard in this league. I think it was more than just we got Luka. I think it was more than that. So yeah, I hope it works out for him.
Yeah, I hope it works out for him, man. People all the time they smash our former players that didn't do well with us. I hear people talking about Moutier and all kinds of stuff. I hope all of our guys when they leave do well. You know what I'm saying? You grow an affinity for them when they play. I do. You shaking your head, Josh? I do. All right. I grow an affinity for him, and I like to see him do well.
What about Porzingis?
I like to see KP get healthy and do well.
Okay.
Why would I not?
As long as you're consistent about that, that's okay.
Why would I not? I've always said that. I'd like to see him do well. Willie, I don't know, but I'd like to see him do well. Josh, what do you think? Go ahead, Steph. Go ahead, Steph.
But also, people get on us about our development. When guys go other places and they don't do well, it just goes to show it's not just the Knicks and their lack of development. It's just some of it is just the player just wasn't good enough. If it's happening in multiple places.
Right. Any thoughts on it, Josh? Then I'll come to you, Andy, real quick.
I mean, basically what Steph said. I mean, it's not all about the Knicks, and people like to throw that. Well, we didn't have any development over if we would have had the proper development, we could have developed some of these players. That's not always the case all the time. It's really hard to pinpoint the problems or like one particular problem for the Knicks in the last 20 years. It's been a multitude of things. So I do agree with that. And I guess, being that they were Knicks draft picks, you want to see them do well, but I mean, I don't care. I'm looking out for our team or what we got on our roster right now.
Well, DSJ wasn't a Knicks draft pick.
Oh, he was one of the young guys on the squad, I guess. But I mean,
they traded for him. But he wasn't a draft pick. Still like to see him do well. Just like I'd like to see Frank Ntilikina do well out there in Dallas. I want to see him do well. I don't know what's wrong with that. I don't know why there has to be so much of a rivalry and so much hate that I can't wish that one of the players that we had on our team, players that you might have even met before, that you're like, I don't care if he does well. He can go to Mars for all I care. Come on, man. Andy?
Yeah, you know my stance on Frank. So I'm gonna get to Moutier because you called out his name. He scored 32 points yesterday in Europe in a double overtime game, but they won. So let's be happy for him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with Steph. Sometimes it's the team, sometimes it's the franchise, sometimes it's the player. And to be developed as a player from his rookie year to being an all-star to being an NBA vet and like over 15-year vet in the NBA, there's more than one party that has to pan out and give you the chance, the opportunity to work hard and just give you the situation to develop. It's sometimes even if you would do everything perfectly, you're still not going to get the chance. because you're going to be playing, behind All-Star, Hall of Fame or whatever. So he's going to be getting most of the time. If you would go to a worse team, you would have more opportunities, more chances. So, it always depends on more than one factor and more than one side, right? But, mostly the good players just pan out. Let's go that way.
Oh, you're right about that. You're right about that. I hope that DSJ can go out there and find some success. Maybe he can get with Damian Lillard. Have a mentor in Damian Lillard. You would think that maybe they play a similar type of game. I don't know, but I hope that he goes out there and he has some success. I see someone in the chat ask me, what happened to Cornerstone Kev? I don't know. We ran him off the corner. I don't know. He got, I don't know. He can't deal with it. No, he's got a show over there on Lawrence Tears, The Pod Couple, which is very good. So you can go check that out. So he's,
Definitely.
kind of been busy handling that, trying to get that thing off the ground and really make it pop. But he'll be back. As a matter of fact, he'll be at the game with us for the home opener. And he'll be jumping on the live podcast that we do. So make sure you join us there. One last thing before we get out of here. The Knicks and Nets at the Rucker. What do you guys think about that? Right? It may be the only place that Kyrie Irving can play if he stays with Brooklyn. He might only be able to play outside. Right? So they might have to play all their games at the Rucker or Dykeman or something like that. Who knows? I don't know. You know what I mean? But the NBA has, I guess, had conversations and thoughts about, having games outside, kind of like they do in hockey, right? Having some games outside. And you would think they would start it off probably with a Knicks-Nets game at the Rucker, at Dykeman, or whatever it is. You would think they would go to L.A. with the Lakers and the Clippers, right? And they might even try to do something in Seattle. There's no NBA team there, but, they got a heavy street ball scene in Seattle. I think that'd be pretty dope, though. You know what I mean? And the Bleacher Report tweeted out a picture today, just giving you an idea of what it could look like. Now they got the Knicks and Nets in their regular uniforms. You better believe if they play outside, they're gonna make some special uniforms for both teams to play outside. It's gonna be a huge marketing thing and all of that. I don't know how you get, tickets would be super duper limited because you're not gonna fit enough people.
Right.
I mean, if you know where the Rucker is, I mean, like parking would be atrocious if you try to get people from, out of town coming in or whatever it is. Where's the media going to go? Who knows?
In the ghetto, in the projects.
You know what I'm saying? Like, where's the media going to be? I mean, it would be crazy out there, but it would be, I think it'd be pretty dope, be pretty fun. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if they do it at the Rucker or something like that. I seen someone said they should do it at the Cage. I'm like, bro,
oh my!
You know how small that is, huh?
Yeah, West 4th Street.
West 4th Street. Like, you know how? First of all, it's small. Secondly, you can't fit nobody.
No.
Not
they
for that
take
level.
a stat somewhere outside the bar.
Sam, I do want to say though. Well, I don't know how it is up north. I'm in Carolina. This morning when I went outside, it was a little chilly. It's getting that time of year where it's starting to get cold out. So basketball
insulated.
Right. So the uniforms got to be insulated, or if they're gonna do it, it has to happen early on in the season, sooner rather than later.
Right.
Because what I remember about October up in New York, it starts to get real chilly out there. So that's a great idea. But hockey has been extremely successful with the Winter Classic, the Heritage Classic, and all of that. The Rangers play at the stadiums and all of that stuff. So I think it'll be a great idea. We just got to figure out how they actually going to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tim, did you see that picture? That was a layup. You see where the Knicks was positioned defensively with Kyrie with the ball? That's a layup.
Uh-oh.
You're right.
Uh-oh. Don't tell Tony that.
That's a layup. And under the basket, we got Evan Fournier. Because LaMarcus Aldridge about to go set the screen. Yeah, we might be in trouble there.
Yeah, and Mitch leaning on whoever.
Leaning
no
on him.
defensive position at all.
No defensive position at all. foot's probably hurting. Who knows what's going on? Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be dope if they could figure out a way to do it. To be honest with you, I don't think that they would do it, and I don't think they would do it at the Rucker or Dykeman. I think they would set up an NBA court, a regulation NBA court somewhere. If it's going to be an NBA regulated game, you know, where it counts for the standings, they're gonna have to set up a regulated court.
Right. And they can bring that in. They can bring in
They can bring that in
wherever they want to have it.
Right. You know, I don't know what if either one of those two courts are regulation, NBA regulation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say, but they'd have to set up a regulated court and make sure that they have enough space, you know, to get a sizable crowd. You know, how else are you going to bring in revenue from that game unless you're just doing an exhibition game?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe they could test it out. You know, maybe that's something that you test out in the summer with summer league. You know, not in Vegas though. Like, you know, you take the Nets G League you know, summer team and the Knicks summer team, and you have them play outside, you know, someplace and test it out there. I think you'd have to go through some testing first before you just, you know, put it out there. And that's where the NBA normally, you know, they test things out, you know, in summer league with the G League teams, you know, they test out different rules and stuff like that, you know, to see how it would work. It'd have to go through some testing first, I think, you know, to make sure that it's going to be successful in the end. You know, but it could be dope because it's playgrounds all across, you know what I mean? You know, it's playgrounds, not playgrounds, but it's famous parks all across the country. You know, in a lot of the cities that we play in, you know, not we play in, but, you know, the NBA plays in, you know, and I think it would be, you know, a great way to, you know, not only, you know, publicize the NBA, but bring something to that community. Or maybe you go into a community where the courts need to be made over. You know what I'm saying? And you use this as an opportunity to make over the courts, clean up the neighborhood a little bit, provide something for the people that live in that neighborhood. You know, a new park, you know, whatever it is, you know. So, and I can see the NBA doing that, using NBA cares and, you know, collaborating with everyone, you know, companies and programs in that community to clean up a neighborhood, clean up a park, you know, and then, you know, have the game on that court. I could see that happening, and, you know, it'd be a good thing. Be a real good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else here? I do want to but at least let everybody know. I don't know, Andy, if you had any thoughts on that, but I'll come to you in a second. Tonight, 8:00, we're gonna have the NBK Fantasy League Draft. So make sure that you join us. 8:00 tonight, the NBK Fantasy League Draft. You know, and we're gonna do a better job this year of keeping you updated on the standings and all of that stuff as it pertains to the league. We didn't do that great of a job last year. We're gonna do a better job this year. You know, I barely played, and I think I came in like 8th place. And like a quarter of the way through the season, I dropped off. I couldn't focus on it anymore. I think I came in like 8th place. I'm proud of that.
Yeah, whatever, Sam. Whatever you know, want to say, bro.
I'm proud of that.
I finished in 3rd, so I'm not gonna be, you know.
But you was up all night tinkling with your roster.
Iru won. But Iru is like a 25-year vet in fantasy league, so, you know, he has like as many points as the whole rest of the league has.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Exactly. Iru killed it. You know, he's like a superstar or something like that. You know what I mean? But I'm really gonna try to pay attention to it this year. Just, you know, it's different than football when you're doing a basketball league, because you literally got to pay attention to it every single night. You got to be on it every single night. With football, you know, you got an entire week to, you know, find out what's going on, who's going to be injured, who's going to play for this player, you know, and all of that. And then you got up until minutes before 1:00, you know, to update your rosters if you don't have anybody playing on Thursday night. You know what I mean? You know, with basketball, you got to be on it. It's like a job almost. You know, you got to be on it. And you got people like Eagles going to have like 2, 3, 4 teams. I don't know where he finds the time.
Consuming. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where he finds the time. But 8 o'clock tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be having a draft. And we may open up another league, just for fans that want to get in and join in the league. So be on the lookout for that. If not tonight, then in the coming days where we send out the link, and then that way you guys can have a draft as well. And, we'll see if we can publicize, not publicize it, stream it and all of that kind of stuff. Any last thoughts before we get out of here, Andy?
Well, listen, if that game at Rucker is going to happen, I'm buying a stand with binoculars because people are going to be watching from the roofs from everywhere. So I'm going to try to make some money that way. Yeah, but
I'll be out there selling waters.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll be able to catch me selling waters. Yeah. I'm making a lot of money off that day.
Yeah. Going back to the fantasy thing, wish, you guys going to join us there. It's going to be a fun, long stream. We're going to be chatting up, doing probably, it's going to be draft day and it's going to be trade day also, when it comes to fantasy. So
right.
It's going to be trades before the season happens. So no.
Yeah, it's going to be
That's
dope.
going to be a fun thing.
All right. Steph?
Looking forward to the draft tonight. Looking forward to training camp opening Tuesday, the first preseason game, the season. How's Mitch going to do? How Kimber's going to do? A lot of questions. Looking forward to that first 20 games. I think that's when you get a better sense of how the Knicks will do. And just looking forward with hanging out with you guys. I think I came in late in the season. I'm approaching my 1-year anniversary, I think, with MBK. I got to figure out when I came on. But I think the season has started already. I think. Yeah.
All right. That's what's up. We'll have to go back and look at the archives.
Right.
Yeah, go look at the archives. Josh, anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, salute to the MBK fan. Please come join us tonight for the fantasy draft. Look forward to seeing all you guys there. And I just want to say, I know the Tuesday is when training camp starts. Expect some fireworks. The NBA, this is unprecedented what the NBA is going through right now. The first, It's crazy with COVID and the trades and these players that are disgruntled, if you will. So it's going to be a lot of things happening throughout training camp and the start of the season. So everyone stay tuned. May not be Knicks related, but it's going to be some fireworks that could definitely shape the league. So let's look out for that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. And as we always say, spread love, ladies and gentlemen. Out.
This is MBK. Nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Nick.